Hi boys and girls, Miss Lori here for lesson 2 of Fame. And this month we actually have 2 artists, which is kind of cool. Currier and Ives, aka Nathaniel Currier and James Ives. And you'll hear about them in just a minute. And our composer is Giuseppe Verdi. So let's check it out.
Hi, today we're going to talk about the art of lithograph. And it was developed in Europe in the late 1700s and was brought to the United States in the early 1800s. And Pendleton of Boston was the first one that started using it. And our artists today, Nathaniel Currier and James Ives, brought the art of lithograph to the common man so people could afford it. Nathaniel Currier had to go to work when he was a young boy because his father died, so he and his older brother had to do odd jobs to help support the family. And when he was 15 years old, he went to work for the Pendleton Company of Boston, and they were the ones that were just starting in the lithograph business. And he learned the process of lithograph. And what you have to do is you have to get a stone. After they cut the stone to size, and they had to grind the stone to get it nice and soft so they could draw on the stone. And after they drew on the stone, they had to etch it. And then they put down the mix to put on the stone where they had etched. And then they put the paper on the stone, and then they put something heavy on it, like a press, to press the paper. And then when they picked it up, that you had the lithograph. And in order to put color in the lithograph, you had to have an assembly line for people to color the print. And they would have a copy of the print in color. Somebody had colored it in for them, and they had like I said, an assembly line, and it was mostly women, German women, immigrants, and they paid them, and they sat in the line, and the first lady would get and do blue, and then she would pass it down to the next lady, and she would do green, and the next lady would do yellow. And that's how the whole assembly line went until the print was finished. And then when it was dried, they could sell it. They had a little table outside, and they could sell printed copies depending on the size for 2 or 3 cents, and people would come by and buy whatever they wanted at a really good price. And I will tell you, this is the first picture that was actually printed in a newspaper, and it was famous because at the time they did not print pictures in newspaper. And this building had burned, and Currier had sent an artist out to sketch the scene and came back, and within 3 days this was printed. And of course, that's, nowadays we have it printed in seconds, but back in the day that was considered fast. And the New York Sun was actually made an extra edition for this picture. Okay, and with the showing of the burning of the building, the next picture that brought recognition to Currier was the sinking of the Lexington. It caught on fire, and again, this went to the newspaper, and then he became nationally known as a printer who could print out photos for the newspaper also. And not only did they do newspaper printings, they did prints for the common man. They did things like disaster, sentimental photos, sports, humor, and here's another humorous one, delicious coffee,
Yum, yum.
political, a picture of George, fishing, here's boat fishing, religion, countryside, city, trains, more trains, ships, riverboats, and actually these riverboats are racing, racehorses, more racehorsing, firefighters, the life of a firefighter, and of course kittens. And have you noticed the little mouse in the bottom? And the cat might be afraid of the mouse? Okay, so with all these lithographs going on, Currier would send artists to different places, and they would come back and have it all, do it on the stones. but he wasn't a very good businessman. And his brother suggested that he hire Ives to help him out, and Ives was kind of an amateur artist himself, so he had the vision of putting things in perspective, and so as a partnership they did really well for like the next 70 years. The interesting thing about lithograph is that not a lot of people were able to sign their work, and he had various artists going out and bringing it back in and etching on the stones, and one of them was a woman named Fanny Palmer, and she did a lot of the outside work, and sometimes people would just tell her about things. She had never seen a ship, but they would tell her what a ship was like, and she would draw on there. And that was the interesting thing about his art. Their art is because they weren't actually artists. There were other artists helping them out, but they never had the recognition. Fanny Palmer did about 200 of the lithographs for Currier and Ives, and over the time, as photography and printmaking and all that thing came into being, they went out of business. But they did over 7,000 prints.
Whoa.
That's amazing, and some of them are worth a little bit of money nowadays, but back in the day, they were really helped bring it forward to the common people as no other artist had done before then.
So this is Giuseppe Verdi, and he was born in 1813 in Roncole, Italy. So this is 2021 here. Go back. 1813 is about right here, a little after the railroads and the piano. Giuseppe Verdi was born October 10th, 1813 in Roncole, Italy. It's a little northern town. And he showed musical interest to his parents that he wanted to play music at a very young age, at like 4 years old. And his mom and dad didn't know anything about music. So they paired him up with the local church organist. So he first learned how to play the organ, which is right here. You can see, many of you probably know what the organ looks like, but it's got 2 sets of keyboards, and your feet are also pumping the bottom as well. And then later, when he learned, his dad got him a small spinet, which is like a small harpsichord back in the 1800s, and they kind of look like this. It's a very tiny, it's not portable, but he kept this thing forever. He loved it so much, and he would practice on it all the time. One time he got a little too angry that he couldn't get the chords right, and he took a hammer and he was gonna smash the keys, and his father caught him just in time and took it away from him. So he said, anger is never the answer, which all of you know, that's very true. So when he was 12, he became so good, he took over the church organist's job, who was his teacher. Kind of funny. So at 15 years old, Verdi began composing music for the orchestra and also for church. And he studied with a private tutor who was a member of Milan's opera house, very prestigious. And he ended up going to a choir rehearsal, and the pianist didn't show up. So he said, I know how to play the piano. So he sat down, and he actually ended up playing the piano with one hand and orchestrating the choir with the other hand. Pretty impressive for a 15-year-old. So obviously he took over and became very famous. In 1836, Verdi married Margherita Baresi, which is fun to say. And they had 2 kids. And unfortunately, I don't know why, but the wife and both kids died over the next 4 years. And then Verdi actually got remarried, and he didn't have any kids with the second wife, but he had all of these cool exotic pets. He had peacocks, he had cats, he had dogs, he had parrots. And later he died in Milan, Italy on January 27th in 1901. But he lived a very good life, and he brought amazing music to the world. So I forgot to tell you, when Verdi died, more people attended his funeral than any other public event in Italy. That's how famous he was. So today we're going to hear a song called the Anvil Chorus from Il Trovatore. It was his 18th opera, and he loved opera, and he loved writing music for it, and everyone loved going to it. In fact, he had like super fans that maybe in the winter time when it would be raining a lot and it would flood the streets a little bit, his fans would come stand in line at 9 a.m. in ankle-deep water all the way to the evening to get tickets to see his opera. And that's crazy. And they would pay expensive prices to see it. And they were so good that, you know, he would get like a standing ovation, and the entire last act was like a giant encore. So our focus today is rhythm, and remember, rhythm is the beat of the music. And this song, the Anvil Chorus, happens to have a very distinct rhythm. I don't know if you know what an anvil is, but it was kind of a steel piece that the blacksmith a long time ago, they would make horseshoes and all sorts of things. They would bang on it, and you will hear that rhythm of the banging. And when you hear it, I want you to raise your hand or thumbs up or whatever you want to do. But I found a really cool video of this orchestra and choir together performing it. So let's check it out. I think it's really fun to see all of the instruments work together to create a piece of music like this. And pay attention to the percussion instruments. They create a lot of the rhythm. Obviously they're singing in Italian, that's why you don't understand them, but it's okay. Do you hear the anvil? That banging? Boom, boom, boom. See the drummer in the back? I always like watching the composers too. I mean the orchestra leader, not the composer. There it is again, the anvil banging. Or the blacksmith banging the anvil is what I meant.
Okay, today's art project is inspired by K-2nd lithograph, and we will need paint, a little cup for your paint, paintbrush, pencil, wipes in case you need them, your paper, and instead of stone, which will be very expensive, and I don't think we could do that, we're going to use styrofoam plates. First thing we're going to do is take our hand and put it on the plate. Obviously, my hand is much bigger than yours. What we're going to do is we're going to trace our hand and press a little bit, and if it goes through, it's okay, but we're going to just kind of go around our hand and around our fingers. And if you need help, please ask. Here we go, around our fingers, and my thumb. Okay, and since it's going to be a little turkey, I'm going to put little feet down here. And give them a little turkey, I forget what you call this right here, a little eye. What else is it need? Okay, next, after we've drawn our turkey, we're going to take our paint, and you just need just a little, and you're going to paint over your handprint. This would be the ink that K-2nd Ives put on their stones. You don't want to get it too goopy, like I said. Okay. As we turn it upside down, and I'm going to stand up, and we press on it. We're the printing press. So you press on all around, and unfortunately you guys won't be on the bottom because you have smaller hands, and Nona does. So we press. Try not to move it. That's going to be the hard part. Hold it with one hand and press with the other. And then you just pick it straight up.
Yay!
And there's your turkey hand.